Welcome back. I'm speaking with Art Thompson, CEO of the John Birch Society. Art has written a book called Exposing Terrorism Inside the Terror Triangle. Art, in your book on page 19, I'm going to read a little bit here because we've been talking about terrorism and Homeland Security, the Patriot Act, and why we need some of the legislation that we have. You have written, in an exclusive interview with U.S. Today, DHS Secretary Janet Napolitano stated, quote, "We will always live in a terrorist environment," unquote. Asked during the interview, "Do you perceive a reduced sense of urgency about the terrorist threat?" she replied that terrorism, quote, "is something that we just have to be prepared to live with. We need to do all we can to mitigate the risk. But that means individuals undergo a certain amount of inconvenience at times," unquote. Benjamin Franklin once admonished the American people as follows: "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety."
You know, the thing is that inconvenience to her is my rights. What we see as a result of the Patriot Act and the various implementation of it through Homeland Security is a violation of the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. And today what we are witnessing at the airports, from my own experience, is that we are actually doing more to control the American citizen than really stop terrorism. Now, why would I say a thing like that? First of all, I can tell you that one time I flew into SeaTac, Seattle, Tacoma, and I was the first one off in this case. And there were 4 women standing just to the left as I was leaving the plane, ready to get on to clean the plane. They were all wrapped in Arabian, Muslim garb, 2 of which I could only see their eyes. I could not tell whether they were men or women. And I reared back physically and I said, well, so much for the terrorist watch. The first time I was pulled out of line to be wanded, I looked at the nameplate and it said Mohammed. I've actually gone in and given my ID, my picture ID, and boarding pass to a woman, part of TSA, in a burqa. Now, a burqa, for anybody that may not understand what that is, that's the garb that covers their entire body. And the more strident the regime is, they either just have a slit for their eyes or it will allow their face to be uncovered. In these cases, their face was uncovered. And she's scowling at me. Well, I should be scowling at her. But and I've found 2 other people that have told me this. Now, this was in Newark, New Jersey. I've had a man tell me he saw it in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. And just this last week, I had a woman tell me that in Portland, Maine, they also saw a woman there. They had to give their ID to a woman in a burqa. Well, if it's a Muslim problem, why are we doing this?
Well, also the question is, if I were to come through the line going through security when I board a plane, take for instance, we just traveled to Singapore, I had to take my jacket off, just a little short jacket like this, let alone something that would cover much of my body. And I'm fairly sure that had I hidden some of my face, they would have probably not appreciated that.
Probably not.
So I guess I don't understand. It seems like there's a double standard here.
There is. There's a double standard. Just to give you another example of what happened recently, recently, a year ago at O'Hare in Chicago, the immigration authorities raided the airport to find illegal aliens, which they found readily employed throughout the whole structure of the airport. And one security company that was there had 135 employees. Out of 135 employees, 11 of them were wearing badges that did not match their identification.
Oh my.
It's almost impossible to believe what happened. As they lost employees, they would just throw their badges in a bin. And the new employees were asked to go and rifle around in there till they found a badge that kind of matched them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so 111 of 135.
Now, is this company still employed by
I don't know. You can verify that by going online and researching back through the Chicago Tribune, but it's there.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because here's the thing that means a lot to me. You know, people say things all the time. They'll give you stories of things that are happening. But one of the things that you've done is you research, you've given footnotes or
Yes.
cite your sources. I think it's really important that anytime anybody has something of interest to people, that they do cite their sources or
Correct.
give information. So tell us a little bit about the research that you did on this book, and then go into the rest of your triangle, if you will.
The research that went into this book, the primary research was done by the senior editor of the New American Magazine, William F. Jasper. He has watched this for decades. He, like I, started out by infiltrating Marxist organizations, and he started to build a library and a research library. But this comes, the research in here comes from a number of sources. The research that we do in the John Birch Society Research Department and William F. Jasper, but also there are various terrorism experts out there who have written very good books. Mm-hmm. Then also you have a number of whistleblowers who've come out of the federal government, out of the CIA and the FBI and other government agencies, to demonstrate some of the things that we talk about in the book. And then we also have defectors that have come out of Russia from the KGB and the renamed FSB. The KGB renamed itself the FSB, who have exposed the fact that Osama bin Laden's chief lieutenants are all KGB agents trained in Russia, and Hezbollah and Hamas. A lot of people are not aware, for instance, that Hamas, that is in Palestine, basically recruits online, on the internet. All of their servers are in Russia, you see.
Wow.
And so a lot of people don't know things like that. Hezbollah was founded in Iran through a gathering of openly communist terrorist organizations and some others that weren't open, but all of them Muslim, and run by a man who was educated in the United States, an Iranian who was educated in the United States. So Hezbollah is really run out of Iran. And Iran, for all real purposes, is a Russian surrogate. I mean, they're the ones that are supplying them with atomic energy, wherewithal to do that, the engineering and the plants and so on and so forth. Every time we want to do something with Iran, Russia steps in and says, no, 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 no. And so if you look at what's going on in there, what do they call their army? It's called the Revolutionary Guard. Mm-hmm. Those are all clues. Russia is giving them arms, just like they do Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and things like that. Communism is alive and well. It's just that the American public hasn't realized it yet.
Well, in part, I think there has to be some responsibility laid at the American media, and without sounding like I'm bashing the media, because that's not my intent. One of the things that has bothered me for many years is that anyone on talk radio or even reporting the news will repeat something as if it's a fact, mm-hmm. without giving you any research. Some of the things that I'll read in the newspaper, it'll say, according to experts. Yes. They don't cite what experts or how. And so I have a problem when I read anything. I don't care whether it's from you, from anybody, from sure. USA Today, for anywhere. When something like that happens, I am very careful to say, okay, who are these experts? Or according to a passerby, So you're saying that you cite, that you do extensive research.
Yes.
When we come back from the break, I'd like you to, of course, finish your terror triangle, yes. But I'd also like you to give people some websites that they can go to, sure. different places, maybe magazines or newspapers or whatever, where they can get some news that they can look at and decide for themselves, and where they actually tell where they've researched.
I'd be glad to.
I'm Elizabeth Allan Hodge. The program is FYIdaho.